So I'd just like to give a little preface for this conversation. It's a very relaxed conversation. It's not really question and answery. I'm trending more towards these sort of styles, but yeah, this guy is absolutely amazing. Coach.Kian. I'm not sure if that's how you say it, but yeah, he's just a great dude. Like, he works with JPS, if you're aware of what that is. Like, they're one of the few people in the natural industry that just give like phenomenal advice. Like, if you're aware of 3DMJ, they're similar to them. Like, just they give phenomenal advice. It's very level-headed. They understand. They have nuanced opinions and things, and I think, yeah, especially this guy, I think he's got really good opinions. And yeah, overall, I think this is just a great podcast. I hope you guys enjoy this one. It's very relaxed. I tried not to edit it too much because I think it's a lot of my conversations are interviews, but this is a conversation, and through and through, that's what it is. And I really, really related to this guy, and I think he had a lot of very interesting points and a lot of interesting resources that I wasn't aware of, because I think we're in a very similar space, but I think there's a lot of things that he learns from that I haven't even discovered yet. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this, and yeah.
People are constantly raising the bar.
Sacrifices need to be made.
What would you guys say are your biggest weaknesses?
You or your enemy right now?
The success of life.
Just a fucking podcast.
Most of the time, people are open to different views and different perspectives. But there are also some people who think they are, really, really, superior and better than everyone else because they know everything.
They feel like
they don't want to
this,
open up to
one thing that it's like, no, this is fact. And even if there's still debate, or I think one thing that I learned from Eric was like the whole and this, I think it's not just from him who's presented this idea, but I think it's just such a good idea in science and like basically black and white thinking versus gray. And I love that so much because it's I feel like that's what had been missing from my fitness journey. It's I hadn't realized that yet. I'd always thought oh, this is the best, that is the best, this is the best, but it's I love that there's so many it depends. I love that. It's so much more complicated, but it's
absolutely,
that's half the fun.
Well, it's because the thing is, man, I think it's just the fact that it's all a mystery, right? And we don't know. The truth is we don't know anything. We really don't know anything at all.
I love that.
And we're just finding out things day by day, which makes the whole process a lot more fun. And the thing is, I think with a lot of beginners that start getting into the fitness industry, just like myself, we always want the thing now. We want the result right now. This is it. I want it right now, which is probably why a lot of people end up being on keto diets or things like that gets them a fast drop on the scale, things like that. So as soon as you're after chasing those short-term results, that's when you start seeing, more consistent progress, and it becomes a habit, whatever you're doing, whether it's fitness, whatever it could be. But it's interesting to see how at start we always want things now, but then after we realize, well, maybe there's more than one way to go about things. And
I feel once we realize that, it's so much opens up, and it's then you don't have this as you said before, that dogmatic approach sort of can't exist. And it's even in evidence base, it still exists, but it's it's, I think it's way less common. If you look on just normal YouTube fitness, they're all dogmatic, or a large majority of them are all thinking this is the best way, blah blah blah. A lot of them are fine, people like Rob Lipset and Christian Guzman. I feel they're pretty open-minded and they're not promoting shit. But then it's you look at people do you know Joseph Rakish? He's a big NZ guy. He always he's just all in on keto right now, and so are so many other people. And
well, and that's most likely because they want to get the buy-in, they just want their money, and that's all they care about. And that's what, as I said before, it
pisses me off. It's come on. I don't get it how. My thing is if you're this passionate about fitness, I assume they're just as passionate, right? But it's how do they just accept to violate their morals? Do they just not get it? Or I guess it's okay, how can I be successful with this? Because I guess it is still helping people, but it's I don't know. It's
Correct.
you're like
Yeah.
you have to lie in a way to help people. Like
Yeah.
not even lie, just mislead them a little bit. And it's like
Yeah.
I don't know if they're just behind on knowledge or if they just withhold knowledge.
Yeah, definitely. I think they're not behind the knowledge. It's more rather a way for them to, they kind of blind themselves and just
Yeah.
say, no, we're gonna pretend like the real thing doesn't exist, and we're just gonna stick to, keto and all these kind of things because that gets us money. Like that's probably what they care about.
Yeah.
And obviously it's not a very nice way to go about things because it leads people in the wrong way. But having said that, I think at the same time, sometimes, if someone comes and says, this method, hasn't worked for my clients, or this method has worked for my clients, and they have experience, and there's not necessarily, research behind it to support it.
Yeah.
I'm actually open to, experiment that, like, as a person, because I think, as we said before, like, science is not, science is not fully developed, I guess, you could say, as we all know. And when someone comes, client got amazing results, but there's no science behind it, I'll be like, well, cool. Like, I would be open to seeing what he's done. But some things like keto, for example, saying, 30 days keto plan, challenge, like all these kind of things. That's
those sort of buzzwords. It's like
nonsense. Yeah.
And I feel like at the start, I didn't even realize the difference between. Well, I didn't even know evidence base existed. Like I didn't even realize that, and I think most people don't even know it exists. Like the thing is, like, who's biggest in evidence base? Like 3DMJ or like I don't know. Like there's.
I'd say
probably
Lane Norton was the
he's huge.
initial one. Yeah,
probably him. Yeah, and even him, it's like I asked most of my gym friends, they don't know who he is, but they all know who Christian Guzman is, or like fucking. In New Zealand, it's all Joseph Rakish, which pisses me off. Yeah, like it's so annoying. There's people at my gym who like. They'd be like, oh, bro, I just bought Joseph Rakish's plan, and I'm like, why? Why the fuck? It's so fucking annoying, and it's like, oh my god,
but it's changing though. Would you agree that it's changing, kind of towards? Like, I feel like as time goes by, people are starting to notice that some of these guys are just like their own gear, and that's all. They just want to sell something.
Especially steroids nowadays, I feel like they're definitely getting way, way better. Because I don't think it's a secret anymore, like, or it's not as much of a secret. Like, there's still people on steroids, but it's like, I feel like it's not used for marketing as much anymore, except in like Olympia, like obviously. But I feel like everyone in like, no one's under the false impression that is hard work. No one, or very few people. So it's like that is just hard work and motivational music or some shit. Like,
correct.
No one believes that anymore, so that's all good. But then it's like,
but even the ones that we do see,
like that guy who just came out and he was like, "Oh, I'm on Psalms." Like even that, it's like,
who was it?
Ryan Casey, one of the Gymshark dudes. Yeah. Like he just came out and said, like, "Oh yeah, I'm on Psalms," or he was on Psalms or some shit. And I'm like, that's why didn't you just get on steroids? Like, come on. Like, it's probably safer. Like, do you know Josh Bridgman? He's a UK bodybuilder. He's been competing naturally for like 5 years, something like that. It's been competing naturally for a long time. He's like 101 kilos right now.
Wow.
Like at 6 foot. Yeah, he's fucking huge. And he's pressing like all-time PBs, working with Callum Raystrick from Callum Muscle Mentals. And he's probably going to get on a cycle, but it's going to start like super relaxed, or the least the smallest cycle he can get on, and then he's just going to run that, and then I think that's a good approach, because it's like like whenever someone asks him like, should I run trend, he's like, fuck off, don't be an idiot, because it's like they probably have not done 7 years of natural training, and it's just like
correct.
Like I get steroids, but it's like, and I feel like people shouldn't be dogmatic towards them and be like, nah, fuck off, you're a dickhead if you use steroids. It's like, that's just gonna create more like secrets. So it's like, I'd much rather it be open and honest. Like,
absolutely. I mean, I remember.
Also, do you mind if I keep this bit in? Because I was gonna usually I do like an intro,
Yeah.
But I was like,
Absolutely. Go for
yeah,
it.
because I think most of this is very valuable. I've been finding this a
Beautiful.
lot recently. Like
Yeah.
when I do the intro, it's sort of like it makes it more robotic, and it doesn't let it just flow. But
Yeah.
yeah.
But this is like just the flow.
I like that much
Um,
more. Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, I was gonna say, I remember Dr. Israel was talking about how in Revive Strongest podcast, he was talking about how, if you do want to jump on, it's like, well, maybe spend like 10, 15 years of, just doing actual training first,
Yeah.
building all those habits. Then maybe like when you're 35, 40 years old and you still want to make more gains, like that's when you should potentially jump on if you really wanted to. Like I remember him mentioning that because obviously he's very open about it himself. But the thing is, man, like being young and being not having much experience with stuff, you make the wrong mistakes sometimes, unfortunately, and you have the wrong perspective on things because you think you end up being more confident just because you look a certain way, and that's not really true because I've been someone who was overweight. I nearly got anorexic at one stage when I lost weight, and now I would consider myself healthy, but it's like neither of like the transformations that I had made me confident. And this is me just being a young person. So it's like constantly chasing an external factor in order to be more confident. You end up going around yourself and not finding out who you are and like your actual identity in a way.
Yeah. I can definitely sympathize with that. I found because I used to be like 50 kilos, now I'm like 72, and I was like same sort of frame, so it was like, for me it was pretty drastic, but it was like, and I found the confidence did go up for me, but it was like, I don't think it was from getting muscle. I think it was just because I'd found success in something as a kid. Like I was like 17 and I was like, holy shit, I know how to do something well.
Absolutely.
And I feel like that was where the confidence came from, instead of like, oh, my biceps are 2% bigger. Like, I feel like that is not where it's from, and it's just like, I think,
and I think another thing about it is the fact that when we do start training, we start to have like some sort of like an order within our life. Like everything is organized, right? So it's like, I got to sleep, I got to train, I got like 5 day split, like these are everything I do. Then you work your way around things, and then when you have order within your life, and this is what Jordan Peterson says, who I follow a lot of. I don't know if you know him or not.
I love him.
He's
huge
great.
fan.
He talks about how like if you want to be successful as a young person, you need order within your life, and order is just simply things like having a routine, having like having the right sleep, and like all those kind of things, exercising and cleaning your room. It sounds very like vague, but it all works. Like it makes you a lot more because everything's just ordered. You know what's expected, like within your life to an extent, at least.
Yes, I feel like if someone
reason.
can get something in line, especially like this is what pisses me off about kids my age. Like I'm like 19, but it's like I look around and I see kids my age. I had like a really intense conversation about this yesterday, and it was like very depressing almost. But basically it's like I look around at kids my age. They're all obsessed with social media. They're all obsessed with fucking like getting random shit that doesn't matter. Then they all you'll talk to them and they'll be like, oh, have you watched the latest season of Netflix? And I'm like, fuck off, no I haven't. I don't care. And it's like they have no passions, and it's like, fuck, just like pick something, work hard at it, and then you'll be way happier. Like God, I don't like I want this is what the goal of this podcast is. Like I want kids to like go out, pick something that they think they'll be passionate about, and do it. Like, fuck.
And be open to changing it, I think. Because, like, I'm 21 myself, and I've experimented multiple things in my life. Like, it started with, like, fitness. Like, obviously, that's always been there. I was doing, like, an engineering degree. I didn't like that, so I changed that into a business degree now. But, like, I guess... like finding passion, but I think passion is not stationary. Like it changes all the time.
Yes.
depending on where you are in life, right? You know, I'm going to be honest with you. Maybe 5 years time, you and I will not be interested in fitness.
Yeah,
And that's the truth.
that's the
It's the
scary
truth.
thing,
Like,
but that's how it is.
Exactly. And
fine.
having that adaptable mindset towards, your career, to your professions, I think that's what will put you in a position where you're more prone to be successful, simply because you don't beat yourself up if something doesn't go as planned.
Yeah.
And that's what I've experienced in like the past couple of years, when I changed from like one uni degree to another, and I was like, well, like this is kind of sucks, but like at least now I'm happier. Like you might, when you're training, man, like you might get injured, right? So it's like, you got to be open to that, man.
Yeah,
you got to change things around.
Like these things are gonna happen. Like for me,
exactly.
For my first, well, I'm 19. I'm doing my first degree, but I'm not gonna use this degree at all, and I've accepted that. It's basically it's podiatry, so it's like feet. And I at the time I was like, oh, I want to analyze running gait. I want to be a sports podiatrist. But in reality, I don't want to do that, because I liked running at the time. I was a distance runner in high school. But now it's like, all I fucking care about is bodybuilding right now. And it's like,
there you go, man.
And that's all I've really, like, that's the main, like, when it comes to fitness, that's all I've cared about for the last 3 years, if I look at it, like, realistically. And it's like, I would force myself to care about running. And then now I'm nearly done with this degree. I've got one more year to go. I'm like just about to finish my fourth semester exams, or second semester. And then one more year. And then I'm going to go and do my master's in exercise science or something. Because, like, it's just like, and I did not plan that, right? I for a long time, I was basically in denial of like, nah, I'll use this degree, but I fucking am not. Like, I look at the slide, like, we have slides in class, right? And it's like, here's a great example of why, it's just the absolute disgust that I have for some of the treatments that we have to do, right? Like, a lot of what a podiatrist does is, like, cutting toenails. And, like, like, that is, fuck that. I'm not doing that for the rest of my life. At the time, I was like, this is fun, because, like, not the cutting toenails part, no one likes that. But there's certain aspects of it which are very complex and very difficult. Like, next year we do surgery, which I think will be fun. But
interesting.
When it's, like...
Is it actual surgery?
Yeah, well, it's very, very... It's like surgery. So it's like you'll use local anesthetic, you'll all get in scrubs and shit, and it's very, very safe. But it's like you're doing like a nail avulsion, which is like removing a nail or removing half a nail. So it's like what, I don't care. And it's like I talked to this guy, you might know him, Project Goliath. He's a doctor, but he also is like a fitness dude. And basically, he made a video about it, and I was like, fuck, I can relate to that. It's like, I want to fix the problem, not fix the symptoms of the problem. Like obesity, just people being sedentary, people being lazy, people eating like shit. I want to fix that. I don't want to fix the issues that are caused by that, because then it's like, it's just too late. And it's, I didn't realize at the start the significant difference between those 2 points. Like, I thought, oh no, it's both health, but it's such a big difference.
It's difference, absolutely. One of the reasons that probably, like, our field of exercise science, etc., is getting a lot more popular these days. I would say it's because of that. The government, like, especially in Australia, obesity is like ridiculous right now. Like, we are, I think, like second or third after America.
Just cut out for a bit. You there?
Are you there?
Yeah.
That's okay. Exercise science is just like, here in Australia, it's become so much more popular. And one of the reasons I genuinely believe is because, people are unfortunately going to the wrong pathway of, eating wrong, not being active. Doesn't make the country any better, like, and just the world better. The more obese people are. And it's like, the scary thing is how it's trending. Like, it's trending in the wrong direction. And it's like, something drastic has to be done, or else we're fucked. Like, correct.
And it's like, I feel like there's going to be like 5% of people will be extremely, extremely healthy. Then everyone else is just going to be like so unhealthy. And it's like,
I think what you and I kind of do, man, like we are trying to kind of change that
Yeah.
to an extent as much as we can.
But it's just
Even if you think
so,
about it,
like,
like it's like I feel like it's a bubble, and like
yeah.
you know, people like we spoke about like Lane Norton and Edgar Helms, like the 3DMJ guys, like
Yeah.
you know, they are distributing the effects of like influencing other people like you and I, like young people like you and I, and then we're trying to expand this. So hopefully one day will come that you know
just
we
be
can
so
reach out
big
to as
that
many.
like
Yeah.
I hope so, because it's like
Yeah.
I swear, like if people just absorb 5% of the information, just a little tiny fragment, they have the foundations. It's like if people understand calories in, calories out, probably do some weight training, maybe do cardio, like.
Yeah.
That if everyone did that, if everyone deadlifted twice a week, that's it. I feel like the world would be way healthier. Like,
Correct. Absolutely.
and like it's not that hard. But I feel like for a lot of people to understand, like, what the fuck is a calorie? What's a macro? Like, and they don't even. And I think, like, how have you found when it comes to like adherence? Because that's because I'm not coaching yet or like anything like that, and I'd love to in the future, probably like midway through my degree or something, once I feel like I'm like ready and knowledgeable enough. How have you found adherence? Because I find whenever my friends come to me like, hey, can you get me toned or whatever? And I'm like, fuck, yeah, I guess. If you can adhere, but it's so hard to get them to adhere.
Unfortunately, I think obviously before anything, like adherence and compliance is number one thing. If the client is not willing to do the things that you want them to do, they probably won't get the results, you know, and you can't, you won't be able to, like, you know, it's just like keep them for a very long time either. But in terms of adherence, I think because everyone's life is different and each individual has a different approach and different view on life. Even as a coach, you should also have a different approach to each person. So individualizing your approach to each client. What I've found best is sometimes people say they listen to the client, but they don't actually listen.
Right.
And I think listening to the client needs is actually so important initially in order to get the adherence up. So it's like, let's say a client comes to me and says, you know, I'm really busy, you know, I have a like full, you know, like I just had a baby. That's actually a good, like a recent client of mine was recently like this. So she came to me, she's had a baby, she's at work, super busy lady. So, I mean, this sounds very basic, but she wanted to lose weight. And so I put on certain calories, and I said, don't worry about macros. I just want you to track calories and protein. And I gave her like a very flexible way of like, you know, having like a weekly caloric goal to hit. So like if she goes under, if she goes over one day, she can make up for it throughout the week. And that's worked, man. Like she's lost a couple of kilos in past like couple of months, and she's made lots of progress. So that's one thing. I think just listening to the client's needs. And another factor would be, I would say, as we spoke about, having that adaptable system that if one thing doesn't work for the client, then you should, even as a coach, you should be open to changing it up, right? So like the first few weeks of someone starting a diet is very difficult, because that's when they start to build those habits, and which helps them to, you know, be successful within that dieting phase. So if you can be open to change and being adaptable, you will be able to change things around for the client, and you will understand what they need and what they don't need, and what has worked for them and what doesn't work for them, and then work around there. And this is like this might be a very biased way of me thinking, because that's how I do my powerlifting training for my clients as well. So it's like I build the system essentially, and this is something I've learned from Mike T and Eric Helms, Mike Teixeira from RTS. You know, you build a system, and then you initiate that system, and then you're open to adapting that
Yeah.
system.
Yeah.
Right? It's like whether that's training, nutrition, whatever it is. I like to do that with a lot of things, even with my own life. I just
Yeah.
like to have the system and I go along with it, just let it flow and see what happens
Yes, and just sort
over
of,
time.
do you feel like the key to adherence a lot of the time is letting them do it in their own way? Because I feel like that I
Sometimes.
think is so hard. Because
Yeah.
not in their own way, but giving them variables to play with, or giving them giving them flexibility or room.
Correct. Yeah. It depends. Like if someone has the skill and knows how to diet from experience, then yeah, you could be a little more flexible with it, depending on the goal. But if someone has never actually been in a fat loss phase, and this is true because some people are just too easy on themselves, and so this whole thing depends on the personality type, I would believe.
Yeah.
If you're someone who doesn't work hard enough, doesn't like to push themselves, then yes, if I hear that from you, I would be very rigid, and my approach to you.
So you would be
for your nutrition
harder the easier they are on themselves.
Correct.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. But if you are, like someone who is too hard on yourself, and you feel guilty of certain things, and you might have like maybe you tend to overeat things in the weekends and etc. Then that's when you can become more flexible. And obviously, this has its own times as well. So if you're in contest prep, for example, you would have to be rigid the closer you are to the date, and the further you are. So it's very context dependent. It's again one of those it depends kind of things. And I think different approach. And as a coach, you're the person who has to. It's your job as a coach to decide which approach you're going to take towards the client.
I think,
and you might not be right. You might be wrong about it. It might not work for them.
And it's sort of accepting that, like, I feel like that's going to be one of the things for me when I become a coach, like realizing like, oh shit, even as a coach, it's not like there's a formula that you follow. It's like you're YOLOing it every time. You're trying to figure out like, oh shit, like, I'm going to try this, but it might not work. It's a good guess, but it's like, And do you feel like that is a lot of coaching? Like, because I think is that what makes it so challenging? It's like you have to actually, it's not like a math equation. It's not like there's not a correct answer. There's like 50 or like, and it's like, there's just a way of getting there. And it depends.
And there's probably more than one way to get there. It's not one specific way to get client the result they want. There may be some ways that are faster. There may be some ways that are slower. Yeah. And the pathways that you usually take, they might have negative consequences, or they might even have positive consequences. Like if you get a client to lose weight, in a short period of time rapidly. Let's say an aggressive mini cut, like 4 weeks, just as much as you can. Then they lose their weight. They'll be happy. Yeah. But then what if they potentially, can't maintain that, the weight, and they start to, overeat things because the mini cut's over. They're too aggressive. Physiologically, they need more food. Yeah. Psychologically, they're tired. Like, you got to think of your actions, the consequences of your actions after. Yeah. As a coach as well, which is very important. And a lot of people don't do that, unfortunately. And it's hard to understand it as well. It's hard to understand what the second order consequence is of the action you've taken. Right. So the it's like how in chess, when you move, you've got to think not just their next move, their next move. Correct. Absolutely. Right. Absolutely. I feel like I can imagine that's quite a hard thing to sort of take into account, because it's kind of like when I work at a shoe store, and it's like you in a shoe store, and it's very like sales dependent, and we get some commission, but we're talking like $1 for a sock, but it's like you to get shoes out the door, or to get socks out the door, because they're expensive socks. But it's like you have to gauge the person's reaction to what you're saying. You have to kind of figure out, okay, is this the kind of person that I want to give them all this techie information, or do I want to be like, yeah, those shoes look great on you, blah, blah, blah?
or like how do I want to sort
Exactly.
of play that? Or do you just want to be as real and honest as possible? And then it's like you have to, and then it's like if you like quote unquote play a move, and then they don't respond well to it, it's like, okay, shit, like you've got to gauge that, and gauge then how that impacts everything. Is it kind of like,
Yeah, but I think like working retail, like you understand sometimes you can kind of tell by the person, like after a couple of times, you can understand what the person is like just from their facial expression, the way they come to you.
You can even tell it with the first few words.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's just the way they respond to anything.
Correct, absolutely. And like sometimes, obviously you have to be honest, and sometimes you just don't have to tell the truth.
Yeah,
and I was
sometimes
speaking
you
about
have
this
to
to one
bend
of
it a
my
little.
friends. Yeah. I mean, like you don't have to lie about it. You just don't tell the truth. Like you don't tell them the negative things, and it's like technically you're not lying either.
Yeah.
So
and it's just like it has to be. I still feel guilty doing it, and I think because I've only been in this job like 6 months, but it's like I still feel very conflicted, and I feel like, as we were talking before with the two people in fitness, it's like there's the Eric Helms, which is like the way he talks, I've never heard him be like, this is the best, you're an idiot if you don't do this. Like I've never heard him say some BS like that. Then you compare that to like, I won't name any names, but like I think I already did name names, but that's all right.
Keto man.
Yeah,
Keto man.
ex-keto dude. And that guy will always say, this is the best, and there's no room for movement at all. And it's just that I think it's a plague. But I think it's, as you said before, I think it's getting way, way better. And I'm glad that it is changing, because I think, like, even with my like friends who I go to the gym with, a lot of them are becoming slightly educated. Like my like the main mate that I gym with, he's like pretty well educated, and he just like watches people like Jeff Nippard, Vitruvian Physique, like all those sort of dudes, and it's like they're like, I think they obviously know more than they give out, but it's like I think they have to keep it more general if they want to grow. And I think there's always a point of being like, hey, how niche do you want to get? Like 3DMJ, it's like they're bodybuilding specific, so it's like, they do powerlifting as well. Yeah, it's like that's just their niche, and it's like if they went for Gen Pop, it's like I feel like they would grow faster, but it's like what is that at the cost of? It's like then for the bodybuilder, they're not the bodybuilder's brand, like and that's I think a hard cost to make.
Sure. Would you say like the fact that you're like people around yourself are getting a bit more educated is because of your influence on them?
Not even necessarily. Like a lot of them, yes, because that's like I'll be in the gym with them and I'll be like, "Yo, bro, fix your form," or like, "Why are you crash dieting?" Like I have this one mate. Sorry, Keegan, but he his maintenance is probably like 2,600, 3,000 maybe. Then he crash diets for like 4 weeks before a swimming comp, and he'll lose literally like 8 kilos, and it's like he goes down to like 1,200, like ridiculously low calories. And I'm like, why don't you just diet for twice as long and then like maintain muscle mass and just not get so wrecked by it? Like, I don't think the adherence could be that good either. Like, it's just too much. Like do you listen to? Oh, you do, Revive Stronger?
Absolutely.
I was listening to them yesterday, and I asked a question. They like answered it for me. They were like, it was about me doing a cut, and I've never cut in my life, right? So I've just bulked for 3 years.
How exciting.
Yeah. And it's like, I was like, do you think it's a good idea to do a mini cut? And the way they approached it, they were like, yeah, possibly. But over like 6 weeks, super slow, super controlled. And I feel like, say if I wasn't that educated, that would be like amazing. And like even in cutting, I'm not that educated. Like I don't know shit about losing weight, anything at all, because I've never done it. Like
the fact that you admit that and say that you don't know shit, that will put you in a better position to lose weight.
I love that as well though. Like I asked Eric a question and he was like, I don't know. And from someone like him, it's like I see him as like a god of knowledge when it comes to like bodybuilding, powerlifting. It's like
Yeah.
And then it's like for him to say, I have no clue. It's
Yeah.
like, that is crazy. I love that. Like, and
Yeah.
in many niches that doesn't happen. Do you find
Yeah.
do you think that's mainly just because of like my favorite book is, you might have heard me talk about it with Ben Isgro as well, Ego is the Ending. Did that cut out?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all good.
So it's like basically,
But yeah, so
it's a phenomenal book, and it teaches like chill with your ego. Your ego needs to be killed, and it's like it's just delusional confidence. And I think I struggle with ego a lot, but I want to kill it. Like, I think in fitness, I'm good at being like, hey, nah, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about here, but I still think there are areas where I'm like, where I think I know everything, and I don't want to start coaching until I understand that, or until I'm like ready to.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, like, I don't know if you've heard of like the Dunning-Kruger's effect, where
I think I've heard of it, but not too sure what it is.
Yeah, so it's essentially when you know, you start a new profession and you're exposed to a new like whatever it could be, and you tend to think that you know everything, and you overestimate your performance.
Yeah.
And you think that you are, you know, top shit. And whereas reality you're not. And this is like very popular for people who just get into that profession. And then after a while you realize that you're not very good at things. And then you realize that you don't know anything. And then you just go downhill. And that happens to a lot of people that get into the fitness industry. They think I've been there myself, man. I'm gonna admit it. Like, I've been there. I was a kind of person. I was like, well, you know, it's been 2 months since I've been dieting, since I've been training. I'm a coach now. I'm a god.
I literally thought I thought I'd hit my genetic peak 1 year in, and it's like,
there you go.
I was like, fucking I was such an idiot, fucking hell.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's so unavoidable, and it's like, I feel
Absolutely.
like realizing it is the most powerful thing to like kill it.
Yeah, like, you know, just, you know, the way you can kill it, man. Like, I feel like just through self-awareness and reading helps a lot with understanding that there is so much to the world than what we see. Like, I'm so grateful for the fact that, like, you know, in past, you know, 2 years, I've been kind of like hooked onto reading and learning in general, and that's been a huge part of my life in the past 2 years. And you realize that life is not what we know and what we see in the everyday life. There's so much more to it, and that it just makes it so much more fun, man. Like, life is just so much more fun when you know that you can learn so much. As like a 20-year-old, man, I feel like both of us, it's just like so much knowledge and so much experience.
There's
like
so
we could possibly
much to
have.
learn. This is why I love the podcast, because I get to talk to people, and it's like, I can't remember one podcast where I haven't learned something, and it's just like, it is phenomenal, and it's just like it's like reading a book, but you can ask questions.
Correct.
I feel like I'm almost cheating my way into talking to like celebrities or like
but it's a more effective way, though.
Way more, yeah.
You know, like, you learn a lot more because it's a lot more individualized.
Yes.
And you just ask them the questions that you don't know, and I'm sure people learn from it too. Like, I listen to your podcast with Eric Helms. Like, I've learned things from that, and same with Ben, and it's great.
I just love it. Like, I think the medium is just going to grow, and I just love, like, if you look at Joe Rogan, for example, it's like the way he's now, like, when he interviewed Elon Musk, it's like that went viral as hell, and then it's like, okay, if you actually listened to that whole conversation, the amount of takeaways were fucking huge. Like, at the end, he was literally like, can people just be nicer to each other? And I think that is like, you wouldn't expect that. And it's like, I think that is so cool. And it's like, when you listen to Revive Stronger, and it's like, it's like Mike and Eric and Mental Henseman, like, arguing about not periodization, exercise selection.
Individualization.
Yeah. I love that one. And it's like,
yeah,
you hear that and you hear them debate. It's like, you cannot not, like, if you can understand the conversation, you cannot not learn. It's just so good.
Yeah.
And like, that can't happen on a video because it's not genuine interaction.
Yeah, and like I feel like what we also learn about it is the fact that, yes, we do get the fitness knowledge, but at the same time, what I understood at least is the fact that they're not, like, they're debating and they're not attacking each other.
Yes.
If you notice, like, it's like arguments, but it's not like, oh, Eric, I don't like you. Nah, fuck you, Mike. I don't want to talk to you. Go away. It's not like that, you know?
It's not like there's some bullshit digs. It's just like, they're actually debating the points, which I think doesn't happen in many places. And I love that.
Yeah.
It's
just and like if you heard Revive Strong's recent podcast and how Mike and Steve were talking about the podcast was like, why are CrossFitters so jacked? Yeah, like Mike was like, well, I've learned some things from Eric Helms this year that's helped with my cut, and it's worked great, like really well. Yeah. And someone like him, who's who has so much influence on people and has created, like, the MRV system and etc. That's like incredible, like, just to see that he's open to learn from Eric Helms. Yes. And adapt to his ways.
I think it's so cool. It's like,
I
feel like that's the reason I don't like these big influencers, or I get it, but it's like, it rubs me the wrong way. I don't think people should be looking at them as a source of information. Like, I think there are, like, everyone's going to start there. You're all going to start with the, like, big famous Gymshark athletes or whatever, and they'll give you some good information, but it's like, to genuinely learn a lot, I feel like it's got to be evidence based at some point. Like, it has to ascend to there. And it's like,
but like, which Gymshark athlete do you know that is putting out information? Or like, which one do you know that has been sponsored because of the knowledge and not the physique?
Yes, that's true.
None of them really. I can't think of any of them.
Like, they're not going to be like, hey Eric, can we sponsor you? It's like, they're never going to be like, oh, did you just get your PhD? Oh shit, let's sponsor you. Like, exactly. I feel like they do disseminate some good information, but it's like, it's
like people like, as we spoke, like Christian Guzman and stuff, like, they do put out information, right?
But it's like,
it's not,
a lot of the time it's behind the times.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, exactly. I was watching, like, some of it was just like still old school stuff, like some of it was just like, man, like, why don't you have a training program? Like, why don't you just, like, actually track your training program?
Yeah.
Like
I didn't even, when I got into fitness, I didn't even realize it's like this is the first year that I've ever had a program, and the amount of difference it made is fucking phenomenal. Because it's so like, you track your volume over the week, and I didn't even know what volume was a while ago. Yeah. Like, you would hear, like, Jeff Nippard or, like, Vitruvian Physique or Omar, like, drop it and say, oh, volume. But I would never truly understand why it's so important. Yeah. And I feel like it's
like, they ask you, like, what's progressive overload? Well, you add weight every week. And like, how much weight can you add there? Like,
and it's like, you wouldn't think, oh, if my form improves but the weight is the same, is that still progressive overload? And like, people, you'd be like, nah, no weight added. It's like, and it's like, come on, like, there's
and
so many
especially
things.
When you start off as a young person, like, this is like, for us, like, boys usually, you go like, cool, I'm gonna do more. And then you do more, and you sacrifice your technique.
Yes.
So your technique goes down here, but the weight goes up. So it's like, what's the point, man? Like, you complain about, being injured and not progressing at all.
That's literally, because I think my issue for the last, like, year, before I started realizing what volume was, like, I had been doing way too much volume, and just sort of going in there doing, like, oh, I'm doing chest, like, and I thought that was a program. Oh, chest Mondays. It's like push pull legs or upper lower. It's like, I thought that was all you had to do for a program, but it's like, you pick 5 movements, cool, stick to them for like 6 months.
Absolutely.
Like, damn,
you get really good at them.
I love that. And it's like, I'm finding a lot of the time, especially for myself, because I have scoliosis and like I have like lots of rib issues and lots of issues there, but it's like, I find it very hard to progressively overload most movements and without getting injured. But then there's a few select movements that I can just overload them to hell, and just keep going. And it's like, they don't cause me injuries. And finding those, it's like, once I found those, stick to them. Like, I learned that from Nunes, like, watching his bulking in the year 2000. It's like, he's just like, oh yeah, I do these random movements, but they work so well for me. So like, why would I not? And I love that.
It's like him like progressing so much on pin squats. Yeah. Like, have you seen him do pin squats?
Yeah.
But like, he just keeps going at it because he's like, it just feels good. Like, it literally feels good. Or like single arm floor presses that he does. I've seen. You know?
It's like, you don't see most people in the gym doing that. They just do like, oh yeah, I'll do my flat dumbbell press and then barbell bench. Like,
that's it.
It's like,
and they don't even feel their chest.
Yeah.
So like, one thing that like made a like significant difference in my physique, and because obviously I come from like a powerlifting background, was not only doing more volume on like isolation, like assistant exercises, but also working harder. Yeah. And what I mean by that is that, you know, some like what the way I got into the industry was like, well, you don't need to kill yourself in the gym. You don't need to do, you know, freaking 30 sets per muscle group every week and etc. You know, it needs to be a controlled way. You know, you got to track your volume. You got to do more volume. You know, and I understood that in the wrong way, and I thought, you know, you got to train. If you do, you know, squat, bench, and deads 3 times a week, like, you know, twice a week, 3 times a week, you see progress. And but that's not really the truth. You need to do more than that. So I got into the habit of not pushing myself hard enough, and not training close.
Do you mean RPE wise?
To failure? Yeah. Not training close to failure. Yeah. And also like not doing enough work anyways. Not doing enough volume either. Yeah. But since I started to train with a bit of a high intensity on my non 3 big lifts, that's when I started to see a lot of changes in my physique. And there's been like studies shown by James Krieger how he talks about effective reps. And you know, he talks about, you know, usually the closer you are to failure, the more effective those reps are in terms of hypertrophy. However, the issue with that is the fatigue that it causes you to not be able to progress in the next couple of sessions. So I feel like I was like in my accessory movements probably like RP 4 or 5 on average. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, you can do that, but it's just, if you want to take to the next level, you know, as an intermediate, you kind of do need to train close to failure somewhat, at least.
I feel like there's always a balance though, because I think for me, I'm always too close to 9, 10. And it's just causing me injuries. It's like, I need to know when to leave 2 reps in the tank. And like,
but like, how do you know what RP 10 is though?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like,
right? What I do with my clients, what I do with my clients, I get them to do 1 set. I ask them like, cool, what RP is this? They send me, I did that yesterday actually. He said like RP 7. And I'm like, cool, we're going to do another set. I want to do an AMRAP. And then we're doing an AMRAP. He ends up doing like 20 reps, like, instead of like when he was meant to do like 8. And like, so he had like 12 reps left in the tank. He's like, this was RP 7. So
that is so true.
It comes
so
back to what we spoke about, personality type. And how much you're willing to feel the pain, that how much the pain actually bothers you.
I find on things like a pressing movement, I'm pretty much always going to the point where I just can't get another rep up. And then on something like leg extension, the limiting factor is the amount of pain. Like,
absolutely.
And it's just like, it is absolutely intolerable. And I'm never gotten to the point where I just can't get it up. I just find it so hard to actually get there, because I just get so fatigued from, and it's almost like that is the limiting factor, which is really strange. But
there's bigger muscle groups as well though, like within like leg extension. Obviously your quads is a lot bigger than, you know, whatever you're pressing. Which kind of makes sense.
Just
but
overall, since they're bigger and since it's like you're just isolating them, it's just causing. It's just, there's nothing else I can compare to it. Like, it's just so excruciating. Like a bicep curl, it's like, it's nothing compared. Well, you know what the way I think about it, and this is what, like, from a powerlifting perspective as well. Let's say you're pressing and you're bench pressing, right? And one muscle could give up, but you still have other muscles. So it's like, it's still technically not RPE 10. If it's a compound exercise, because one muscle group is going to give up there. Yeah.
And there's another thing that comes up. Whereas with like a leg extension, because it's bigger, you might be able to push yourself a bit harder. But like when you're pressing, let's say you're flat pressing, and then you just give up at the top, like that's your triceps mainly just giving up, and you can't do anything about it.
Yes.
So it's like different things involved. It's kind of complex to understand it.
Yeah.
But I can relate to what you're saying about how you can push yourself a lot harder on leg extensions. Just keep going with it.
Do you have like a good system for trying to figure out your RPE? Because I think that's something that I struggle with a lot, and a lot of the time, like I've got like wrist issues, and I'm gonna basically focus this holiday is mainly focused on one, gaining weight, and then cutting at the end of it, and then two, rehabbing those issues and basically figuring out, okay, what is the issue that's continuing to cause this?
Yeah. Well, in terms of RPE, the thing is, it's like if you are consistent with your RPE, like let's say you do a set of 10 on leg extensions, and it's like RPE 8, right? Then you come next week, then you do maybe like extra 2.5 kilos on there, and still RPE 8, and you just keep doing that, and still RPE 8 over time.
Yeah. Technically,
you're progressively overloading.
Yes.
Right. And you might not be correct with the perceived, like exertion load, like the RPE. Like it might be like a reality RPE 6 instead of an 8. But because you've been consistent and because you're progressing within that consistent measure, then that's okay.
So it's like it's like if there was a thing, and then here's the end product of intensity, and then it's like you're still bringing the one variable up, and then if this still stays the same, then progressive overload is occurring.
Yeah, but that's like not from weekly, but I think it's consistently over time, like a couple of months over time. That's you're right. But then, as I said, another method to find the RPE, and which I do with my clients, is doing an MRAP after they've told me what RPE that was. Yeah. Right.
And sort of understanding
because I remember Eric Helms talking about this when he came down to JPS a couple of months ago. He was like, a lot of people underestimate their RPE, right? And again, same thing. Like they did a study where they had people do like sets of 10, for example, and all of them were like, this was RPE 8. They ended up getting like 15 more reps on it, right? So that's one thing to keep in mind. But another thing is the fact that the heavier loads that we do, the higher intensity the exercise is, and the low rep ranges we work in, they're more accurate your RPE would be. So if you do like 2 rep max, for example, or like let's say you do like 2 reps, very heavy bench press, and it's like RPE 9, then you would most likely be accurate about the fact that it's RPE 9. You would know. Whereas if you do like sort of 12, 15, it's a lot harder to actually tell.
Because you can never, it's very hard to sort of figure out, okay, am I actually reaching true fatigue, or like am I actually reaching like how hard can I really push? Is it just like, do you feel like that's why on like things like leg extension, it's like for me to reach a true RPE 10, it would just be so difficult?
Yeah.
And I found
it's incredible. Yeah.
I feel like I can get closer to RPE 10, and I don't know if it's the goal, but I can get closer to RPE 10 while doing unilateral, just because I can just focus on that and just sort of, it's less systemic pain, I guess. And it's more like I can just focus on it and just really, really control the reps.
I don't know if you heard about internal cues and external cues. And
slightly.
Internal cue being about making that muscle mind connection within a certain muscle group, I'd say. So it's like, and this is just a hypothesis, I'm just guessing what it would be like, the fact that you can do that with unilateral movements. Well, obviously it's like you focus on one muscle group at a time. It's like then you know for a fact that there's a lot less stress factors around you. It's like I'm just focused on this. This could be RPE 10, it could be RPE 8, but it's a lot easier for you to actually guess because you're making that muscle mind connection, I would say, which is very obviously it's been proven to work to an extent. And I do try and get my clients to do a lot of it, actually, especially within smaller movements, and if they're a little bit more experienced, because as a beginner you would never know at all. like asking a client who's just started training, where do you feel that? Like Mike was talking about this last week, and I remember hearing from this. It's like a client starts training in like first 2 months, and you ask them, "Did you feel that?" And they say, "No, not really." It's like, fuck off. It doesn't matter. Like you can't understand anything about your body at the moment.
Yes.
But if they're more
It's just like
experienced,
it's just happening.
important.
You can't even feel the muscles working.
Yeah. But if they're more experienced, you can definitely get them to focus more on making that muscle mind connection, to make more.
And you can like put more of an emphasis on it, and actually like make it.
Yes, absolutely.
Make it like
for sure
a priority, instead of just saying, okay, go through the movements, do them
Correct.
hard. Like, do you find? Because I guess with like a beginner, like if someone comes in the first week, you can't be like, so this is rate of perceived exertion.
Absolutely.
And like it's very hard to give them those like advanced tools.
Yeah.
How do you gauge intensity with them?
To be honest, man, like first few weeks, my goal is to, again, it depends. But my first goal for someone to come into the gym is, if they're completely new to the gym, is to make them feel comfortable at the gym.
Right. So just like walking around feeling like they're not being judged, sort of thing.
Yeah. And like this is what we preach kind of at JPS, right? Yes. Like we at a gym that's well known to have bodybuilding, have powerlifting, and yet no judgments, and we don't have those like kind of like bros in the gym who come and like, oh bro, like how much you bench? We don't do anything anything like that. Trash. Yeah. So what we do is like I get a client, I get them coming, I ask them a couple of questions, I introduce them to other coaches. That's what we all do essentially here. We introduce them to other clients, get them to have like an environmental group where they feel comfortable. We get them to exercise, we get them to train, and the funny thing is that we get them to do like 3 sets of, let's say, incline dumbbell press. They'll get sore tomorrow. Like they all get sore, and they're like, "Oh my god, this was amazing." But at the same time, we also work with them to get them to be more comfortable in the gym as well. And the intensity, in regards to the question you had about intensity, it doesn't really matter too much.
Just
because the beginner
volume that they need to progress is nothing. They could do one curl and progress. Like it's more volume than they were doing last week.
They've done nothing, exactly. Like it's really easily to disrupt that homeostasis level for them, because they've not done anything. Like you can just do anything, they'll get better.
Do you think that's why it's like? Do you think that's why for a lot of people, like I have this friend, and I feel like he's been inducted into like Herbalife, and he's trained before, so he's got pretty good muscle memory. He's got pretty good genetics, and he trains pretty hard when he does train. So he took like a year to just do running, so he got like pretty small. And then recently he's, I don't know, some supplement brand must have contacted him or something, but I'm assuming it's like Herbalife, because he doesn't reveal it. He just, fuck's sake, pisses me off. But he's gotten like pretty good results. I don't know if it's like legit, but it's all obviously like a lot of just photos and stuff. But what he's done in 3 weeks is pretty good. And I think, do you think that's why he can just go in, start actually lifting again, and then it's like the results they look really good, and it's
so he hasn't trained for like a year, you said, and
like when he did train, he trained pretty well, but it's like he went back in like 3 weeks, he got some pretty good results. I don't know if the pictures are actually 3 weeks apart, but I think it's really annoying because he's been inducted by this like Herbalife or some shit, because he's always like, oh, message me if you want to make quick cash, and I'm like, fuck's sake, like, are you serious? And I feel like that is. Do you feel like it's just because he's doing more volume than he was last week, and it's just like it's.
Well, I mean, like we know that the only ways to build muscle and lose fat at the same time and recomp like dramatically is from either you've never trained before, or you're coming back after taking some time off. But like with that, what you said, like I feel like. And again, it goes back to what we spoke about, the fact that people, like the problems that we have with social media these days, right? I miss, like, I don't know, yeah, mate. I don't want to make judgments either,
Yeah.
but people put the best photos of themselves on
Yes.
social media.
Yes. No one's gonna
Like, you
put
would
their
take
like
the
shit pictures up. Just
yeah,
because that's not the like people want to display shit.
yeah. It's like you take the worst photos of yourself
Mm.
in the past
Mm.
3 weeks,
Mm.
and you get a pump on. You know, you definitely have made progress in 3 weeks if you haven't trained in months.
Yeah.
But then you come back and you look so much better with a pump
Yeah.
on.
You get a pump,
good
you get
lighting,
better lighting. It's like you're gonna look
more
way
carbs in
better.
your body as well. So much better.
And it's like you can tell that he's gained a lot of muscle, but it's like the first picture, it's like, fuck, nah, I don't want to dwell on this because it's just like useless. But it's just.
I remember, however, I remember reading a study, and this is like it might be relatable to this or not, but they talked about how when you do start training and you start, you know, progressing on exercise and then lifts, and you can progressive overload, the initial like couple of months, I'd like to say, I'm not 100% sure, is due to the neural gains that you make and not actual physical changes.
Yes,
right?
I've heard this as well.
Yeah, so it's like I don't necessarily, I don't know this. Like, I'm not an exercise scientist, like to tell you how much muscle like someone can put on in 3 weeks. Yeah, but it can't be that much.
Yeah, my thing is like when I first started gymming, I saw progress so fast. Yeah, and that's the only issue I have with that. That there must be like neurological. It's like, but I think it's more that I started eating a lot as well. Like I was like 52 kilos at 6 foot, so I was fucking tiny, right? And it's like, I just started eating heaps, and I feel like it was just me actually putting on muscle, just from not even from this, maybe not even from the stimulus of gymming, just like actually having food, like I just didn't have any desire to eat before, and I was like, damn, if I want to get jacked, I got to eat. So then,
well, man, for the first 3 years of my lifting, most of the time I was stuck being in a caloric deficit. Really? And this was a mistake probably the biggest mistake I've made in the industry. Because, well, 1.5 of those years, it was me trying to be within my weight class for powerlifting. Right. But the rest of that was just like having the wrong mindset of just trying to be lean and trying to chase that confidence, as we spoke. But then, like in last year, this year especially, I've been in a surplus for most of the time. Yes. And I probably look the best I've ever looked. I am healthiest that I've ever been. And, you know, like I could look back and be like, man, I made such a big mistake and be so sad about it. And just say, like, such a mistake and everything. But the way I look at it, man, it's just like, well, yeah, like it was a waste of time, but now I'm here. At least I know now. Yes. And at least I can connect to my clients better, because a lot of people who come to us have that mentality as well.
And you can sort of see it in them and then apply it.
You're correct. Yeah. Absolutely.
I feel like that's very valuable almost in a way. It's like, it's almost like us, like it's like when you've got an issue, and it's like, it's obviously you prefer to not have the issue, but it's shaped you very, very much. It's like for me, with my spinal issues, it's like I would not give them up, just because it's like it's gotten me to where I am, and it's helped me. Yeah, it's given me the drive to learn more, because if I don't learn more, I'll be powerless, I guess.
Yeah. Would you say the fact that you've been learning more is because of the struggles and issues you've had?
Yeah, I'd say because I feel I was skeptical as to whether gymming was even a good idea, because I'm fused from T3 to L2, so it's like if you look at like degeneration of the lumbar and if you look at the degeneration of the discs above and below the fusion, it's pretty bad. And I was like, I was contemplating for so long, like, is this actually a good idea? Am I wrecking myself in the future? Now I'm pretty confident. I've done like very good. Like, it's not like a detriment. But I think.
But are you okay with like actually loading, like doing squats and stuff?
No, I don't. I don't deadlift, don't squat. I load. The only thing I load on my back is a hack squat, and it's like even that feels fine. Yeah. Yeah. And it's just, if anything feels bad, cut it out. Or like the only kind of deadlift I do is an RDL. Like I'm very. And
what about like hex bar, like hex bar deadlifts? Like,
The only problem is we don't have one at my gym. There's one machine at my gym which is kind of like a hex bar, but it's got really weird leverages. So I can do normally on it. The most I've ever deadlifted is 100 kilos, which is pretty like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you don't need to deadlift, man. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Why do you need to deadlift?
Exactly. That's for so long that was a conflict with me. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. It causes so much fatigue. Actually, one of my colleagues from JPS made a video on this, and it's on the JPS YouTube channel, and he talks about the amount of fatigue that a deadlift causes. It's unnecessary fatigue.
Yes.
For hypertrophy purposes.
And my only goal is hypertrophy, so it's like
there you go. There's no need.
There's no reason. And then RDLs, like they feel way better. There's not nearly as much loading, and it's actually like it's one of the few exercises where I can feel both erectors go or actually like work. Because I find because my right erector is like a fucking log, and then my left one is just non-existent, and it's just like I can actually feel them both, and it feels way much better. And much
as much as I
well.
love the big three lifts, like as much as I love squats, bench press, and deadlifts, and I don't try and implement this with all my clients.
Yes,
like if they don't need it, like I don't usually. I wouldn't get someone who has like hypertrophy, only hypertrophy goals to deadlift other than psychological purposes, as in like if it's a bloke, he wants to have that ego of like, oh man, I lift so heavy. Then maybe like I'll get him to do it, but there's really no need. Like you could just load up your hammies on leg curls.
Yes.
As you said, squats, to be honest, like I don't think squats is like necessary. If it causes you pain and it causes you too much fatigue that you can't push yourself in that one session or even like in multiple sessions, then just like go on leg press. Just kill yourself in leg press.
And that's the thing. Like this is why like I sort of promote that I have scoliosis, because it's like a lot of people with scoliosis, they'll lift and then they hear things like, there's an old video of Lane Norton. I'm sure he doesn't still believe this, but back in the day it's on bodybuilding.com, and it's like how to squat, and then it's like in one of the lines he's like, if you want big legs you've got to squat, and it's like I don't think he still believes that. Well, definitely not barbell squat. And it's like that when I saw that,
yes, it's a good movement. It's a good movement to learn, but it's not the best. Like you don't have to squat.
There's no paper saying a squat is the number one movement. Like everything else is trash. And it's like maybe it has benefits, but it's like everything else has benefits too. Like on a leg press, you're not loading anything, or barely loading the spine at all. Like you might have some pressure through there just through like bracing, but it's like there's nothing on your back. And for someone with scoliosis, that is so valuable, because they can load that to hell without fucking themselves up. Yeah. And it's like, it's very rare.
It's interesting because one of my colleagues, or like one of the owners of JPS as well, Sam, Jacob's brother, Sam actually won the national like powerlifting competition that we had in Australia. So he won his weight class, which is a huge deal in Australia, as an open, so like as a complete adult, not a junior, because we're juniors and adults. Anyway, so he won that, and for the first couple of years of his training, he did not squat, he did not bench press. Oh, he did bench press, but he did not like squat or deadlift properly. It's only been like the last 3-4 years that it started like squatting and deadlifting properly, that helped him to get to where he is now and be like the best of the best in his weight class. So he did all this volume work initially with no squatting, with no deadlifting. And then he started implementing these kind of things. And because he had such a strong base, like, from all the muscle he had, good work capacity, I'd say, and good, working habits as well, then he was able to transfer all those work that he'd done for multiple years into powerlifting, and he ended up, I think, deadlifting 285 kilos as a 77 kilo lifter.
Jesus.
Squatting like 250 something as a 77 kilo lifter. It's insane. It's incredible, like when you see something like that.
And I feel like the issue is, like, if I see kids my age, I always see kids from my high school at my gym, and they are always bench pressing, always deadlifting, and their form is always atrocious. Like, I never see them go in with like perfect form. Never, not once. It's just like, and like even the people who like have PTs and like being coached. It's like it's still so there's such complex movements, and it's like
why bother?
Yes, exactly. It's like wouldn't it be more efficient to do a leg press if you can't get a squat right? Like for me, my torso is so short and my legs are like fucking long. It's like there's I've tried so many things to try and get a squat to feel good, and then I'm just like, why am I doing this? Why am I trying so hard? Like, why don't leg press feels amazing? So it's like,
well, there's another thing that, you know, I've discussed this with people as well, and I'd like to know your thought on it as well. You know, a lot of people that do things wrong, I don't necessarily think it's their fault. I think it's just they have been exposed to the wrong information, you know, throughout their life, and they think this is the way to go. Like, they think that, you know, squatting and deadlifting is the only way to get jacked, which is obviously we know that's not true. And it's not really their fault. It's kind of like no one's fault, because they just got through it, man. They think that this is it. Like, this is the way to go. And I need to deadlift. I need to deadlift as much weight as I can. I need to sweat. I need to, you know, feel, you know, fatigued and tired after every session, because that's what we've seen in movies. Like, look at like, for example, Rocky. Right, the movie Rocky.
They just hammer themselves every time, and that's like, oh wow, that's what makes him win. Oh, he works the hardest. And then say if you watch like a motivational video on YouTube, it'll be like, hey, oh, there's this one quote. It's like Arnold Schwarzenegger talking about Muhammad Ali. He's like, I was listening to Muhammad Ali once, and he was like, oh, I don't count my sit-ups. I only start counting when they start hurting. And it's like, all that shit. It's like, that pisses me off. It's just like, fuck. Because people aren't like, there's no motivational video saying, you don't actually have to squat. You can leg press really hard. And it's like, no one's saying that. But like, on that whole thing, I agree, because it's like, my knowledge for the first like a year and a half, it's like, it was all from the big YouTubers, and they were all squatting and deadlifting. Like, it's like they were all doing that, and it wasn't like people were advocating saying and there's all these, especially like if you go on meme pages, there's still a culture of like, especially bros, it's like you get disrespect if you don't squat, and that's still prevalent. And it annoys the fuck out of me, especially for someone like myself, because it's like, if I'm like really, really insecure that I don't squat, and then I go and squat, and I like have an ego about that, and I'm like, fuck, okay, I want to squat heavy, then I'm gonna fucking injure myself and need more surgery. Like, it fucking annoys me. It's like, why? I'd like people. If someone cares about their training and they're smart and they understand some of the principles, it's like, there's reasons they've picked their movements. They're not doing it because squatting feels hard. Like, there's a thought process, and it's like,
absolutely.
Even for hypertrophy, I kind of think like, I don't even see why a squat is put on a pedestal. Like, I find it hard to see why it is better than things like a leg press and things like a hack squat. It's like,
it's not necessarily better. I think it's just a variation that helps for hypertrophy.
Well, I think it's so widely available.
But like, you know, if you look at it, it's like for sustainability purposes, and you know, you wanted to be able to, because, you know, obviously you want to be in the game for a long run, right? Whereas the people that you see deadlifting and squatting like with really bad technique and at the bro gyms, doing like quarter squats, they do things because they want to kind of now, but not now, but like they see it more like a short-term thing.
They're not thinking about their joints in 10 years.
Yes, exactly. And it's the joints. And one more thing, as I think psychologically is very important. I will get really bored of just squatting for the rest of my life, and I would also get really bored of only leg pressing for the rest of my life. And I would never want to do that either. And I remember, whose podcast was it that was Andy Galpin was in there. I think it could have been actually Steve as well. So I don't know if you know Dr. Andy Galpin. He's a very, very smart.
I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I now remember it was Steve's podcast. We mentioned Steve so many times in this podcast.
Yeah, well, he's been a big. And if you're listening to this and you don't listen to Arrive Stronger, go check it out, because it's like, I messaged him the other day and I was like, fuck, bro, like, your podcast is just phenomenal. Like, I don't know how he does it, but it's just like, the way he facilitates conversation is actually phenomenal, and I like
Absolutely.
so much props to him. It's like most people in conversation they try and tease out the juicy bits, but it's like Steve facilitates that conversation while keeping it fun, and like but it's focused on the information without being boring and like, I love it. It's very, very good.
But yeah, so Dr. Ali Gapin was talking about how, you know, you should have variation in your training, right? And for psychological purposes and also for physiological purposes. So if you're a powerlifter, no, actually, let's say you're a bodybuilder, because most of your listeners are bodybuilders, you know, you should spend some time in the lower rep ranges with higher intensity, simply because, you know, your muscle fibers need a bit of change every now and then. And at the same time, maybe spend some time doing some conditioning work, you know, like going, like literally like doing more cardio, like spending some time doing some yoga. Like I actually mean that, because how much do you think your joints can actually you know, maintain the load that you put on them over time and time. So there will need times, yes, you deload, yes, you drop, you know, fatigue and all that kind of things, but end of the day, it's like you got to do other things in order to like let them rest and like just like, you know, have variation. Like variation is always a great thing. So like if you haven't read and this is a powerlifting kind of like a book that I've read, but it applies to training for everyone. It's called Scientific Principles Training. Dr. Mike Israel and Chad Smith wrote this, and it's a phenomenal book. That, you know, you should structure a training program, and it talks about the first one is like specificity, second one is like overload, third one is like all these kind of like, there's like a couple of principles that they're talking about, and the fifth one, I believe it's the fifth one, is variation. And after you've done everything, you need to have variation in order to be able to be in the game in the long run and not kill yourself and not get bored, and be exposed to new stimulus over time to cause further progression, right? And that goes back to, you know, just saying, I can't leg press for the rest of my life, and I can't squat the rest of my life either. Psychologically and also physiologically.
This is why I'm glad there's like so many movements nowadays. Like I love how if you know AJ Morris, like the way he trains is like he's not like, he'll squat, but he'll also hack squat, split squat, all these random versions, and it's like I love that, because it's like you get to see like, damn, all these movements work. They all work. It's just you need to apply them with progressive overload and do them properly, and it's like that. I love that, because then it's like, okay, for the rest of my life I'll probably have a cool new movement to try. And it's like,
for sure,
you don't want to like program hop, but it's like there's nothing wrong with, as you said, variability. And I think the whole thing on like the emphasis on joints, I think for me is something I only recently learned, and I'm still applying, still trying to learn how to apply it properly. Like especially these holidays, it's the main holiday, like mid semester break or whatever, but it's like 3-4 months. I need to learn how to apply it over these holidays and get to the point where my wrist doesn't hurt every time I bench. Like get to the point where I feel
any
safe.
pressing movements that hurts your wrist?
Yeah, pretty much any pressing movements. Like there's any pressing, any heavy rows. I've tried lots and lots of grip. I think it's just because I have ligamentous laxity in both my wrists. It's way worse than my right one. But like I'm just, the main thing I'm going to try is like, I'm going to probably deload for like 2 weeks this time, and then see how that makes it feel after, and then figure out, and then just tweak my program to figure out which lifts are aggravating it, or see how strong, because my grip strength has improved by a ton, and I found that that's allowed me to progress. And I feel like a lot of the time my wrists are the bottleneck to my training. And it's very, like last year I was contemplating surgery on them. And it's like they're very frustrating, but it's like I'm working around them slowly. But it's
do you wear wraps as well when you do it?
Nah, they almost feel worse.
Okay.
But I want to. That was a long time ago when my wrist, I didn't understand what was going on in my wrist, so I might try them again though. I actually,
You know,
yes,
like
I haven't tried them in years. I might actually try that.
yeah, because yeah, I mean, there could be multiple reasons that, and some things that you don't know. But like what I do with clients, if they do have some sort of like a pain, I try to, you know, as I said, I build the system, and I take one variable out.
Yes.
And I'm like, cool. Is it better now? No, cool. Then it's not because of that variable.
Yeah.
Then I put that one back, and I take one more thing out.
Yeah.
And I take the one more thing out. It's like, cool. Did it work? Yeah, it worked perfect. So it's because of this movement that, you know, you were, it was hurting you. And like, you have to do this over time. But
yes,
like that's something how I would approach to a client if they were struggling with something like that.
Yeah. Like my approach over the holidays is basically figure out which movement I think is aggravating it the most of the time, then figure out how I can avoid that. I've moved like one thing that I found has really helped is moving from just flat pressing, majority heavy flat pressing, to almost skipping flat pressing some days. Like I'll do one flat press a week, and then the rest will be incline. And that one, I'm pressing less weight, and I'm also it puts my upper back in a better position. Yeah. Or in a less stressful position, because I'm getting upper back issues as well. Like it's pretty. Yeah. This is why I need to control my volume, because I feel like for so long my volume's been quite far above my MRV, and it's you combine that with struggling to get in calories. Like I'm like 20 kilos above my set weight, and it's like I think I need to. Whenever I notice the lower volume I do, the better I feel. Yeah. And it's like,
James, have you heard of Dr. Mike Israel and talking about how he takes like active recovery? In regards to like, it's like, so it's like 2 weeks of like, you know, very low volume, low intensity, or even like just not actually training for like a week or two, and then coming back to it, and like maybe do other stuff in that period of time.
I've experimented with that a bit, but it's like I find it very hard to stay away from the gym. But I found when I have a program, it's much easier. And like last time I did a deload, I programmed my deload, which I'd never done before. And I found that made a world of difference, because it's like, okay, this is your program now. You're following a program. Yeah. Instead of, just do less.
How hard is it with that mentality? Because we always want to do better. We always want to do more. And when there's time that you have to take some time off away from it,
I find it so hard to not go in but it's like I know, like last time I did my deload, it was much less hard because it was programmed, and I could just go in and I knew like, okay, you're not allowed to do any compounds. You can do some isolations, but you have to stick to like just it has to be, it can't be your working weight, and it has to be like and it's just giving myself those barriers, and it's like, cool, you can train abs as hard as you want. Because I never train abs, right? It's like there's things like that where it's like, cool. Or like if you want to sauna for 40 minutes, cool. If you want to do 16 yoga classes a week, cool. Go for as many walks as you want. But you ain't benching. Just because I'll get carried away, and it's like I can't just go and do 40 kilos. It's like I just get it's just adherence. That's my issue with adherence, is training. I over adhere.
It's hard, man. It's very difficult. I can relate to that for sure.
I think it's the root of my injuries.
Yeah, I mean, it's like if and especially something like pressing, all those kind of movements, it's hard to stay away from it. It's very difficult.
They're so essential.
Because you always want to try and see if it's better. Yeah. Then when you try it, and you're like, oh man, it's worse.
Yeah. I find what I found is, because I think for too long, like there's been so many things that I've realized about my training, like in the last 6 months, just from people like Steve, talking to people like yourself. It's like I figure out these issues, and then it's like, oh shit, that could be linked. And I think for me, volume was a huge one, because I didn't understand it, and then also intensity. Like I would always be RPE 9, and it's especially on pressing. It's like, and you combine that with, I would stay away from anything over 10 reps, and it's like, why was I doing that? Just because lower reps felt better? Like, and now I've realized, okay, I've sort of, I can appreciate higher reps more, Like doing, like I have one day of my program where I don't do any heavy pressing. I only do, it's like 10 to 15 is the rep range. And even just that, I found that after that day, I don't get rest pain. I like it. And at the time, it doesn't feel like shit. And it's like, then when I go and do my heavy days, it feels significantly better. But I feel like for the first 4 weeks of my training cycle was fine. Is this what a mesocycle is, where it's like 6 weeks of a training cycle? Because when people say mesocycle, microcycle, I'm like,
Microcycle is like per week.
Right.
Microcycle is like weekly.
Okay, yeah.
The macro is like the bigger one. Like meso is like the middle one.
So macro is like year or something.
Yeah.
Right.
Like 6 months.
Right. Yeah.
Meso is like a training block.
Right. So for the first 3 weeks or 4 weeks of my mesocycle, I was like feeling really, really good. But then the next 2 weeks, it was like, I feel like that's when it's like, okay, cool. This is the point where it's starting to get bad. And I feel like I just need to reduce volume to account for that, or adjust movements.
But dude, like, you know, you telling me this, I understand how hard it is and how like frustrating it is to deal with like injuries.
Yeah.
But there's benefits and like positives to think about this. And I, like two things that I just think in my head. I'm like, well, now you know what to do and what not to do. Well, you will eventually find out what works for you and what doesn't work for you now, which is amazing. The second thing is like, if your clients eventually you need as a coach, you will need to deal with these things.
Yes.
Then you experiencing it, you can apply it so much better to your clients. Right? Like it's like, I know it's tough now, but it's almost frustrating,
beneficial in the long term.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like it's not many. Like, say if a coach had never had injuries or issues, it's like they wouldn't be able to relate. They'd be like, what are you doing though?
Yeah.
Bad form? Because I feel like my form is pretty good. There's not many movements where I'm like, I know my form's shit. Because it's like, I've checked it on everything. And it's like, I don't think it's form. I think it's just because I have, my scoliosis basically puts everything out of alignment. And then it's like, that causes so many issues. It's like if you see my right shoulder, see how that comes forward. This is just how it naturally sits. Then my left one, it's like it just comes straight off. This chest, this part of this pec, it's way, way more developed than the right one. I find it so hard to develop it. I've tried stretching it. I've tried like strengthening my upper back around there, and it just nothing. I think it's just how it sits. And like my physio is basically saying like, there's pretty much nothing you can do. You just have to sort of work around it and sort of try and figure out. It's like, it is very frustrating, but it's like.
But like, that's the reality, man. Some things you can't control. Like some external factors is impossible to control.
Yeah.
This is why I love Stoicism so much. Like I read. I don't know if you know about Stoicism, and like I read Stoics like every morning. And it talks about finding the positive in the negative. And as I said, it's tough. Just all these things, like all these external factors, like that we cannot control. It's out there. Like, and I was listening to the 3DMJ podcast yesterday, and Jeff was talking about, if you go on the stage, you're obviously against people that you don't know. They could be so much more genetically gifted than you. They could have so much more time ahead of you. They could be training more than you. So many things, right? And those are some external factors you cannot control when you go on the stage or when you have injuries like this. What you can control is the internal factors, such as you knowing that you've done the right amount of work. You knowing that just being satisfied with the progress that you have made. And being able to just stay in that moment and not let the external factors, I'd say, take over the internal feelings that you have. Then like that's when like things become a lot more calm and easier, and just life becomes more enjoyable at that time, because you don't let anything else have an influence on you simply because you're so strong internally, like you don't let anything take over you. Your
you don't let your emotions be controlled by external factors.
Correct.
I feel like that's so hard to master from like pretty much everyone, but it's like I would love to get to the point one day where I can master that. I think I'm definitely better than I was 2 years ago, but it's like there's still things that I'm like and I get mad about, and it's like
Yeah,
or like
but that's still improvements.
Yeah, it's like slow and steady improvements. Also, I should probably run to class because I just realized I was meant to leave at 12, but it's like 12:08.
Go for it, man.
I'm like, oh shit.
That's okay, bro.
But would you like to do this again sometime?
Yeah.
Well, oh, wait. First
Absolutely, man.
First of
I
all,
loved it.
Where can people find you? Where can people find JPS, yourself, all that sort of stuff?
Yeah. So I'm on Instagram and my Instagram name is Coach.Kian. If you guys want to find out more about JPS, you can follow our JPS page. We also have a JPS course right now, JPS Education, which is going to be starting in the next couple of weeks, I believe. And we're going to have people like Brian Miner, Mike Rizotel, we have James Krieger, we have Daniel Lennon and a couple of other people, including Jacob Chapis himself. So if you want to find out about JPS, the course that we're running, JPS Online Mentorship, head over to JPS Education on Instagram, or JPS Health and Fitness on Instagram, or Coach.Kian. That's where you can find me. Yeah, that's about it.
Sweet. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the Student Side Hustle. I would appreciate so much if you would leave a review if you'd like to hear more of what I'm saying. Then I would love if you would follow me on Instagram or check out my other social media, all linked in the show notes. And again, I would just like to say thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful evening and study hard.